Good morning. Anne, can you hear me? Anne, can you hear me? No.
Good morning.
Morning, Anne. Can you hear me? You can't hear me, Anne. Okay, brilliant. I see people coming into the chat. Let me just go out.
Good morning and welcome to Trained In this morning. We will be starting off in the next few minutes, so just bear with us. We're just letting people into the room at the moment. So it's lovely to see you all. You might want to put in the chat box what business you're coming from and your name.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Sorka. How are you?
I don't know why that happened. Again, third day in a row. At least I knew it was going to happen this time. Now, let me see. We've got a number of people here in the room already. Who have we got? Miles, good morning. I promise I will ring you next week, 100%. Davina, great to see you again. Hi, Melissa, Elizabeth, Louise. Nice chat on LinkedIn earlier on. Sandra, Linda, Kate, Claire, and Luke. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you all. Linda, you're in Mayo. Fantastic. Where is everybody else calling from around the country? It'll be great to see where you all are. We are delighted to welcome you all in. We nearly have everybody in the room already, which is fantastic. Hi, Elizabeth, West Cork. Yeah, you haven't moved yet. Anyway, Elizabeth. Hi, Davina. I see you there. Galway. Claire's in Galway. How are you? Anne, how are you this morning?
I'm very good, and I'm in Mayo Circus, so I am.
Mayo, fabulous.
And it is a bright but breezy day today, but we've no rain, which is a great day.
Ah, good. Well, it is kind of overcast, but the sun is trying to break through here in Dublin. And we had a lot of rain this morning out where I am, anyway, in Greenogue Business Park. Louise is still in Bray. Good to hear, Louise. You're still keeping up the Wicklow side there. This is great. We nearly have full attendance here, which is fantastic. Luke, good morning to you. I'm not sure if I called you out. I'll just give everybody another minute for any stragglers. Davina, Bahamas. No, I was Stony better than any Bahamas. Absolutely, Davina. You'd only get struck down by a hurricane if you were in the Bahamas at some stage. That's the way to look at it. Who needs sunshine? Let me see who else we have in the room. Mandy, good morning to you, Mandy. Great to see you here this morning. Okay, we are at 3 minutes past 10. I'll start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sorka Finucane, and I'm the owner and founder of Trained In. We are absolutely delighted to be hosting 60 bite-sized upskilling workshops between the 17th of August and the 18th of December on behalf of Taste for Success SkillNet. They are featuring a range of upskilling topics, and we are more than happy to arrange any topic that will help your business or your employees. Today we have the amazing Anne Conlon with us from All About Sales, who's going to take us through some amazing sales closing techniques and tactics, which I think everybody is going to need, not just during these times, but all the time. A little bit of housekeeping before we go on. We can't see you and we can't hear you, so please use the chat facility that I think everybody has found at the moment, from the Bahamas to Stony Batter, Cork, Mayo, Galway. I think we nearly have the country covered as someone from being up north. We're running a poll at the moment. The poll is, what's your biggest challenge in selling? There's a couple of options there, so if you haven't done so already, please go to the poll, because we're going to review it before Anne starts. And when we turn on the presentation, I'm going to turn my camera and my sound off, but I'm still here in the background. Make use of Anne's time. That's what I'm going to say to you. Any questions that you have, observations or comments, pop them into the chat and we'll review them all at the end of Anne's presentation. But before we start, Anne, good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time today, and we're really looking forward to this. But tell us, what are we going to learn today?
Thanks, Circa, for having me. Today, we're going to look at the ingredients of closing a sale effectively. And I'm going to start at the very beginning, and I'm going to show you an outline of what a sale actually looks like and the steps around it, and give you some tips along the way. And then I'm going to look at different techniques to how to sell and how to close in a really effective way. So that's what, and hopefully loads of people are going to get some loads of tips and be able to close some sales at the end of this.
Fantastic. I think it's so important, and it's something that's generally missed at the end of your conversations or your meetings, or what's your action, what's how do you close. So I'm especially looking forward to this. Let me see, we've got a couple of more people popped in there now. For those of you who have just arrived, welcome. And I'm running a poll at the moment, so if you can make your way to the poll and just select an option there. So Anne, do you want to go through the results of the poll before you go forward?
Yeah, sure, do, yeah.
So we have, what's the biggest challenge in selling? So let me see, 9% of people said confidence, 9% of people said closing the sale, 18% of people said don't know what to say, and 18% of people said picking up the phone, and 45% of people said finding customers. Now, that's changed slightly a little bit now. It's gone down to 41% finding customers, and 16% for don't know what to say and picking up the phone, and 8% for confidence in myself. It's changing again now. I think people. I'll just wait for a few seconds until people finish that. But still, finding customers is still the number one issue at 38%.
That's really interesting. Do you remember the last time we did the poll, and the highest one was the confidence and picking up the phone?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
True, yeah. Is that surprising to you?
Pardon?
Is it surprising to you to see finding customers?
It is really, like, now I do have a slide actually on about the sales funnel. So I'm delighted with that result, because I'll actually talk a little bit maybe more about that as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but when we have confidence in our product and our service, it's easier to kind of sell it, like.
Yeah. And if anybody has any specific questions that Anne might not have really touched on or literally skimmed over throughout this, please let us know as well, because we're happy to help you in any other way after this session. And that just reminds me that anybody who has not completed the SkillNet learner profile, I'm just putting a link to it into the chat now. So if you can complete that after the workshop, that would be fantastic. So that's there now. And will I start your presentation for you now?
Yeah, sure, do.
And I know we are running another poll later on, so we'll start that later. So you'll see that popping up at some stage. I'll just move us up to the top. Is that, or will I leave us at the bottom, Anne?
I don't mind, wherever you want to be.
I might leave you there. Super. Yeah. Okay, I will leave you off, and I'm here if you need me.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Circa. And at any time now you can run the second poll as well. I think I'm a few slides in for the answer of that one. So thanks so much for logging on this morning and having an interest in sales. I suppose we were just talking earlier on about what sales is. It's actually part of our business development. And if you don't have a sale, you actually just don't have a business. So that's how important sales actually is to our business. So the topic for our subject today is sales, the critical ingredients to help close the sale effectively. But I'm going to start at the very beginning of what mistakes are actually made by salespeople. So the first one is allowing the customer to lead in our calls, if it's one-to-ones or if it's actually in a phone call. It's really important that we lead the whole sales talk. Otherwise, the customer can run off over a totally different agenda, and you're losing time on what you're actually really ringing them about, the real target of it. So it's really important that you lead always in a sales call. Not being prepared is another thing that people are very much letting themselves down when it comes to a sale. So we'll just say, I actually had a call recently with somebody who's going to look at my website and to actually develop it. And I said, what do you think of my website? And the first thing they told me was they hadn't even gone in to look at my website. That to me shows me that that person isn't interested in my business. They're too busy. They didn't even have a look at my website. So they weren't prepared for the sales call. And first off, that's a really bad thing to actually get when you're the customer, that somebody isn't interested in your business. Talking too much is another thing that we just, and sometimes it's over nerves, we just talk too much. And sometimes we can talk too fast as well. So if I speed it up a little bit and I start talking like this and I'm really, really fast, it's really hard to actually gauge what I'm trying to say. Where if I talk at a better pace, you're able to understand me probably a little bit better. But also, we can also say things when we're talking too much that we don't really want to tell the customer about either. So sharing irrelevant details as well. It's something like that as well, that we give them information that they really don't need. And more information, what happens with that, it bogs down in details. And if you have somebody who isn't, as what I call a number one person, they actually need a lot of data to make a decision. That actually bogs them down. So I'm going to ask you to think about this. We don't actually have anybody online, but that I can see, but I want you to think about this question. If a box lands to your house tonight and there's a DVD recorder in it and you have to hook it up to your TV, you have three options how to do it. The first one is you take out the manual and you read it and you follow all the instructions. That's a person who's a 1. The second person who's a 2 is you watch somebody doing it on your YouTube channel and then you follow what they've done and hook it up to the TV. Or the third person is someone who opens the box and just figures it out themselves. So just have a think about it. Which one are you? And I know there's probably a few people on this call going, well, I'm a bit of everything. You may be a bit of everything, but your first one that you do, if it's 1, 2, or 3, that's the one I want you to think about. So with those answers in mind, if you are a number 1, you're a data person, you like a lot of information, and you're really good in accounts and in back office ends and that, because you're into detail, which companies actually need. So if you were going to sell, you'd actually sell with a lot of detail in it. The number 2s will always sell by showing how this product and service actually works, which is a really good tool to have as well. And the number 3s are action based, and they're a little bit like the 2s as well. They'll actually show you how to do it and they'll include you in it. Now, the problem is that if you're a 1 and the salesperson is a 3, so you're somebody who needs a lot of information, but the salesperson who's a 3 is action-based and is really into bullet points, you'll actually be asking a lot of questions. So if you're in a sales call and you find this customer is asking loads of questions, it's probably because they're a 1, they need a lot of data to actually make that decision to buy from you or not. So that's something just to be really mindful about. So if you went in to buy a laptop in a shop and you're a 1 and the salesperson is a number 3, will say, that means then that the number 3 would say, listen, this laptop's a 13-inch, it's a Mac Pro, it's X amount of money, we have them in stock and it does X, Y, and Z. The person who's a 1 will actually ask you more questions. And that's when you realize, this is a 1, I need to give them a lot more data. And moving the other way around, if a 1 is trying to sell to a 3, they're giving them too much data. They're getting bogged down with it. So it's just to be mindful of it. And the 2s are really well balanced. They kind of move between each side of it. So if you're not getting on well, maybe with somebody at work, or they send you long emails, that's because they're a 1. If you are somebody at work who sends the long emails and somebody sends you back a one-line answer, that's because they're a 3. It's just our different styles. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we've different styles. So we have to be aware when we're talking to our customers. So the next one is not following up. So you might actually have done so much work with all of the sales process, and then you don't follow up with it. Or maybe it's a sales lead that you just don't follow up on. Dealing with the wrong person is a really common mistake as well. It's where that you have given all this information, gone through the whole thing, and then the person says, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll actually send that on to my boss and we'll have a think about it. Then you realize you've dealt with the wrong person. So it's really important on the call, if you're making a phone call to someone to set up a meeting, that you actually ask them, is there anybody else who needs to be on this call or at this meeting to make this decision? So that clarifies you have the right person at this meeting. And then making assumptions. We all can make assumptions, and to assume is to make an ass out of you and me. Oh, excuse me. So to make an assumption is to think one thing, but actually maybe it's something else that the customer is actually looking for. So don't assume that you actually know what's going on. So the critical ingredients to actually help close it is to follow the steps of the sale, which is coming on the next slide. Know your customer's journey as well. When they first buy from you, what is that actual the journey for them? Plan for your sales as well. Plan that you are going to have sales. Be confident in it, and do a good in-depth fact find with your customers. That's really important to make sure that what you're selling is what they're looking for, and to make sure that you're matching their needs, and to ask for the business, which is really closing the sale. So anybody out there who hasn't seen this before, I'd really encourage you to take a photograph of this slide because it's really useful. It's the steps of the sales. So I'm going to start off here where we start to plan. And planning your calls is starting off with your sales targeting. It's also having a sales funnel, which I'm going to come now to the poll in a few minutes to see, do you have a sales funnel? So a sales funnel is where you have a list of customers that you actually want to sell to. So I suggest that you put them into 3 different categories. The first category is those that you're going to sell this month. The next one is maybe it's going to take you 2 or 3 months to sell, and then more than 6 months for the next one. Maybe they're your big dream kind of people. So that's what a sales funnel is, and it's really important that you actually plan for that as well. So the next step then is the introduction, is where you introduce yourself. And then the fact find is where you have a fact find with a list of questions that you ask, just to see, is the customer looking for what you're actually selling? The product demonstration then is where you're actually telling the customer about what product and service you have, using that information that you find in the fact find. The recommendation then is where you recommend to the customer what it is that you think is right for them. I'm having a bit of back noise. I don't know if anybody else has some sounds, so hopefully that'll clear up for you. And also then closing the sale then after you make the recommendation. That's at that point we close the sale. The reason I put this up is to remind you is that it is a process, and not to rush in for a sale, closing the sale without doing all the other steps. We then handle any objections and after sales service in it. So when we look at our customer's journey, we look at where we are and where they are. So we first of all start with approach and our introduction. And when we're doing that, the customer really has an interest of what it is that we're talking to them about. When we're doing a fact find, their needs are being appreciated. We know and they know that we're having a really good think about their business. We demonstrate then our product and service, and they can then see knowledge of our product and the suitability of what it is that we're looking to sell them. Then we make a recommendation, and at that point then they really need to have a desire to buy. So that's the journey of the customer. Please feel free to take a picture of that as well. That's our journey of our customer, and it's really important that we have a look of our journey of our customer. If anybody out there is in retail, I'd encourage you to go outside your front door, go across the street and look at your business and see what does your business shop window actually look like. Go in the front door and walk around your premises as if you're the customer, because that's your journey of your customer. If you have your website online, go in, log out of any systems that you might actually have that are different. Go in and look from your own eyes, from the customer's point of view. We should always be looking at from a 360 degree, because that's really an ingredient to closing the sale. Because if we're not actually doing what the customer is looking for, we're actually not talking right to the customer. So our sales funnel, let's have a look at the poll. I'll have a look now. So 72% of our audience today don't have a sales funnel, and 27% do have a sales funnel. Okay, so when we look at a sales funnel, if 72% of you don't have a sales funnel, that's actually the reason why you're not finding customers. You haven't actually identified them. So it's gone down a little bit, but that's okay. The sales funnel's gone down 38%. Okay. So having a sales funnel is actually how you're going to find your customers. You need to sit down and, find a day and a time in the day every single week that you spend. It might be 20 minutes, might be half an hour, might be an hour of actually looking at your customer base, and have a look at the persona of your business and say, look, I've loads of, again, if you're a retailer, maybe you've loads of young people, but you've none of the 30 to 45s, and you have loads of maybe the over 55s. So that's a catchment area that you're looking for. So you need to look to see, why haven't I not that? If you're somebody who is selling photocopiers, maybe you're selling one-off photocopiers, but you don't have enough customers that are actually looking for multiple photocopiers from you. So sit down and have a look at a sales funnel. Look at the internet. It's a really good, the yellow pages, the golden pages used to be a fantastic tool for anybody who's looking. So if you were selling stationery like solicitors, accountants, offices, they were brilliant, and they advertised in it as well. So you're able to see them and start putting them into your sales funnel, because that's an ingredient to how to close the sale. You first of all have to have the customers before we can do that. So the next thing then is when we're doing an introduction to our customers, we must project a professional image. And that is from the way we are looking to the way we present. Arriving late for a meeting or attending late isn't a professional image. Now, sometimes things happen, then you send a message to let them know that you're running late. Another thing, it might be that you're dressed well. I mean, you're not going to go in with a hoodie and a pair of runners and a tracksuit bottoms into a meeting that you're selling maybe a laptop to. You have to be professional in relation to it. If you're going into an office like Google, well, actually, Google's kind of cool. I'm not sure what kind of the dress code. Maybe that kind of breaks that one. But if you're going into a bank, like, you need to be dressed for your customer, because that's what they're expecting. They say you have about 30 seconds to make an opinion on somebody. So use those 30 seconds really well. So our introduction should really be, if it's face-to-face, I would say to people, listen, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And if we've some synergy together, maybe we might actually do business afterwards. Or if it's on the phone, you're just saying, listen, I'm just giving you a ring about the product or service, or maybe it's about having a meeting with them. So the next stage then is you're doing a fact find. And a fact find is where you ask them a series of questions to see what they're actually looking for. So for an example, if you go to, at some point we've all bought a car, it's a really good place to start. So if you go into a garage and they have a big forecourt of all these cars, and you go in and you say, I'm looking for a car, and the salesperson comes out and says, listen, these are all my cars, which one do you want? You can see from the Ferrari, maybe to the People Carrier, to the Jeep, to the beautiful BMW Mini or Beetle or saloons, any of these cars, all in between. And you're looking and you're going, oh my God, there's so many of them. You're overwhelmed with it. Really what a good salesperson does is, from taking you from their office out to the forecourt, they ask you questions, and that's a fact find. So they start with, what are you driving at the moment? I'm driving a People Carrier. How do you find it? Find it hard on petrol or diesel, but I want to get rid of it because maybe the kids are gone back to school. I want to just have a saloon car. Oh, great. What kind of mileage do you do? Oh, I don't do any miles at all. So are you petrol or diesel? So they have all those questions answered. So when they get to the forecourt, they're saying, these are the saloons. This is petrol, 1.4 engine maybe. They're maybe great on petrol. Maybe they're saying that they have a great boot, because if you have kids, you have loads of stuff to put into it. So they're bringing you all that information, but they're defining the product for you, which is what the fact find is. You start to define the product of what it is, because if you show them too much information, They just can't consume it. And again, going back to a photocopier, because most people have printers and photocopiers in their offices. If you're somebody who's selling one of those products, you go in and you ask them, can I just check with you, do you need black or do you need colour? Do you do many prints? Do you need an automatic document feeder? Do you need it networked? Do you need it Bluetooth? If you're going to be using an awful lot of prints, you're going to be going for a bigger machine and you want it really cheap. Another thing you're going to be asking as a consumer is about the consumer products in it, the toner, how much it's going to cost afterwards. So all of those details are found out in the fact find. And after the fact find, then you go to sell the product or services. So that's when the salesperson says, well, look, we have this saloon. It's a Volkswagen Passat and it's really good on petrol. It has X, Y, and Z. And you're telling the customer, because you want to move from your car that you already have at the moment, the people carrier, I suggest this one to you because you're looking for something that's economical, something that has maybe good space in it, and it's handy to get around the town, and maybe it's a golf car. So you're using the information that you have got from the fact find into selling the product when you're given that information about the product. So that's a really good ingredient to do, is to use the language that the customer is using in the fact find when you're selling the product. You're giving them back the information. And the more times the customer says yes in this, the more times they are deciding to buy in their own head. So they are. So you know the way you're saying to me, you want to get out of the people carrier, you want a saloon. Isn't that right? Yes. And you continuously bring that into it. So you're bringing the customer along the journey. The next thing then is you're making that recommendation of what it is they're looking for. So you make a recommendation. When the customer has registered the price of it, let them consider the value of your recommendation. So when you have shown them the price, keep quiet, let them think about it. If you disturb their thought process at this stage, then you will stop them from making the decision. When they are ready, they will speak. This is a common mistake that salespeople actually make. They rush in and fill up that gap, so they do. So with a recommendation, imagine going into a clothes shop maybe and you're looking at yourself in a mirror. Maybe it's a jacket that you've on. For the gentlemen, they're looking to see if any shirts or ties to go with it. For the ladies, they're looking at what dress, what shoes maybe they're going with it. And you're making that decision as you're looking at yourself in the mirror. And you're also maybe checking, God, how much is it? Do I have enough money with me? Do I really want it? So you're making all those decisions and you need quiet time to actually make those decisions. Where if you have a salesperson that is talking to you at the other side and saying to you about the weather, about maybe COVID and all that, you have to concentrate on those questions and answer those questions, and you don't have time to make that decision. So some people will go into the dressing room, back in and have a think about it again, or they'll say, do you know what, I'll think about it. And for most customers who say, do you know what, I'll think about it, you've actually missed the boat. You've missed something in it. So that's why you need to zip it, lock it, put the key in your pocket. So zip it, lock it, put the key in your pocket. Step away, give them time to think about it. Just a little bit of time to think about it. So then we go for the closing of the sale and how we're actually going to close the sale. So we've brought them through it. We've matched their product needs to our product. We have recommended it. We've talked to them about it, and now we're going to go for the close of it. So the recognizing of the typical buying signs are when a client asks about the price of the product, they are considering to buy. The other thing is that they'll actually move in body language if you're in front of them, because they're listening to you and maybe they haven't moved and then they move a little bit and they might shuffle a bit. So it's really important to just watch that, the body language it's in it. When we're in our fact find and at the early steps of the sale, we're actually asking open questions because we want them to talk. And it's really important that our customer does most of the talking, not us. So we've 2 ears and 1 mouth for a really good reason. They should do twice as much as the talking as we do in our sales chat. So just remember that as well when we're in a sales talk. The customer should do most of the talking. So when we move to the closing of the sales, our questions change to close questions, yes and no's. And it's also important not to add any new information at the close time, because if we add new information at that point, what happens is the customer goes back to the very beginning, to the fact find, to finding a little bit more about the product demonstration. So you're bringing yourself back. So don't introduce any new product or service at this time. And it's also important to say that when a customer comes to you to buy a product, sell them the product they're looking for first, and then sell the add-on. McDonald's are really good at this. If you go to a drive-through McDonald's, they ask you, you tell them what it is you're looking for. So maybe you're looking for a quarter pounder meal. Say, yeah, quarter pounder meal, that's fine. And they kind of nearly get you to repeat it to confirm it. And then they say, do you want that as a meal? And then you say, yeah. And then they go, large. And then they're selling you. So first of all, they listen to what it is you're looking for, and then they up and out in their sales before they even go into the close of it. So when we recognize, when a customer asks about the price of it, that is the first sign. When a customer asks us for more details, maybe about, do you have it in stock? How long will it take to deliver? Does it cost to actually deliver? All of those different details. When the client asks about the dates, maybe it's about a sofa that you're selling, like what's the lead time on it? Do you sell any of the products that's actually in the store at the moment? When the client adjusts their body posture and body language, and when the client starts to calculate numbers. And for some customers, what they do is they take out their phone and they start tapping away. And they're using their calculator. Traditionally, they used to ask if you're in a furniture shop, they'd ask you for the calculator and they'd calculate it from yours, which was a really good buying sign. And when the customer comes more friendly as well, and usually they're becoming friendly because they're looking for a discount off you, and they're warming up to you because the other side to that is that you have showed them what they're actually looking for. Because remember, we're all selling exactly the same thing. We sell a solution to a problem. And the more of a problem we find, the more of a solution we get to sell. So if you're a chemist shop selling deodorant, you're selling a solution to somebody who's perspiring. If you're selling a photocopier, you're selling, the problem is that they're doing maybe too many different prints or photocopying, or maybe their photocopier machine is broke. So that's the solution. So when we're also advertising, we need to actually plant out to our customers that we're really looking for. When we have our own customer base and these customers that you're finding it hard maybe to get in touch with, you have to sit down and look at what is that customer, what are their problems, and what is my solution. So when we go to advertise, we're painting that picture for them. So then they know that they're their actual client that we're looking for. So general tips around closing then. Expect the order, radiance confidence by your own manner, posture and voice. Don't throw in the towel after the first no. For a lot of salespeople, myself included, we get some no's. I don't hear the first few no's. Avoid introducing anything new at this stage of the sale. Avoid questions that invite a negative response. I suppose you wouldn't be interested in that. But that's no way to ask someone if they want to buy of you. To keep silent when you ask for the order as well. Don't allow the fear of rejection put you off by asking for a close. And certainly if you start at 9 o'clock in the morning and you've had 3 no's, don't stop at that. Keep going. Keep asking for it, because there are new people that are coming through. And I always think that when it comes to salespeople, we need really good confidence and strong confidence, and to know what actually lifts you and lifts your little perk on your step as well, for confidence when we're dealing with the public. So closing lines. These are some lines that I love to use, and they're really helpful. My clients find them really useful. So first one is asking for the order. Shall we go ahead and book that now? Do you want me to book that for you? Very direct. You're talking about the order. will we go ahead and do it. Again, this might be another slide to take a picture of for anybody out there who needs a little help with closing. Assume the close. So is there anything else you'd like to ask me before I go ahead and book this for you? You're assuming the close. And the alternative is, would you like me to book the red chair instead of the blue chair for you? So their lines that you go straight in for, and the customer automatically knows this person is going for the closed sales. All my thinking time is over, and then they know what's actually coming. Because at the end of the day, you have to know also when is the right time to ask for the order. And you know, sometimes people need that little bit of push to help. So at that point, we may actually get some objections. So let's look at actually handling the objections. So some facts around it is good objections are healthy. They inspire good communications. So it's never a fear thing if somebody objects. It's actually that they're looking for more information, and it starts a good conversation and you get to understand the customer even more. An objection can occur at any time of the sale. They often indicate that the customer is interested because they need that other little bit of information. So there's two different types of objections. There's a true objection and there's a false objection. A real objection is where it's genuine. There's a disagreement maybe with the customer's mind and the need to resolve this and make a positive decision. Where there's a false one is that they're just saying it just to throw you off balance. The most one actually of a false objection is the price. For a lot of people think that when a price is a main objection, usually it's actually a false objection. It's where somebody wants a bit of a discount and they're just starting to bargain with you. So don't be afraid of anybody throwing out price as an objection with you, because there's a few things that you can actually say about that. So the main reasons we get them is that we actually haven't read any, we haven't actually answered some of the sales questions that we should have maybe along the line. And also when we're looking at the objections itself, that we haven't actually done enough on our fact find as well. We're talking to the customers. So two ways to handle the objections is to sidestep it and ask the customer to restate their objection. The reason for this is that sometimes if you think this is a really daft objection and you ask them to restate it, they hear it again themselves and they realize, oh my God, that doesn't make sense. So you are not actually suggesting that to them. They actually see it for themselves. So sidestep it means ignore it. So the first time you hear an objection like price, sidestep it the first time. If it comes up the second time, that's when you need to handle it, because then that's a true objection. But when someone says one objection and they only say it once, it's usually a false. So handling then the genuine objection is listen to the customer and let them state their objection without interrupting them. And that's really important. Let them talk it out. And even in that themselves, that they will find it. Redefine it. Find exactly where it is. So maybe the customer wants to buy of you, but maybe the delivery date, that's where the objection is, that you only deliver to their area on a Tuesday and they really need it on Monday because somebody's coming to the house on a Tuesday and they need their sofa maybe there. So redefine it and say, okay, so am I right in saying to you that your objection to buying this is actually the delivery, that you need it in for Monday and our delivery is Tuesday, and restate it. Assure them then that maybe there is something that you can do about it. Maybe there is a way, or maybe they can collect the product. So reassure them and commit to that. And then answer any more questions and say, okay, are you okay now to go ahead with it? You know, in relation to price, a really good question to ask someone is if they say, oh, it's really expensive, is compared to what? What are you comparing it to? Maybe they're comparing a pennies item in a shop to something in a boutique shop. So they're not like for like. Ask them what it is they're comparing to, because most people won't even think that you're asking that, and they'll definitely tell you the answer to that question, because they're trying to also get a solution here for their needs. So that's one thing that I'd say compared to what. Another thing is the 3 Fs: feel, felt, and found. Listen, I feel where you're coming from, that it is a little bit more expensive than normal. And I had customers who felt the same. But what they found was that this product made their life so much easier and the value of it was worth the extra cost. So you're first of all, you're empathizing with them. They're not alone because other people felt the same. And then you give them the solution as well to it. So the buying motives for buying is profit. It's also prestige. Maybe sometimes people actually want to buy. If you look at some of the big stores, shoppers come out of some of the big stores, maybe the likes of Brown Thomas, Arnott's, Harvey Nicolson's, Harvey Nicolson's, I think it is, in Dublin. You want to come out with that bag. Maybe it's from Chanel or Louis Vuitton or wherever, and they want the prestige to say they're buying from you. So that's another buying motives for them. Continuity. They want to stay with the same person because you know how they do business, and because of competition, they want to keep in. I'm just going to check that poll. Yeah, so we're 46 and 43 for the poll as well. Brilliant. So 5 tips then, just to give you for building your confidence, because we all need a little bit of confidence when we're going out to deal with people. First thing is to plan your day in advance. As a salesperson, I used to work with the Independent News and Media Group, and we used to always do telesales on a Monday. We'd plan, we'd make 100 phone calls on a Monday to get our appointments for the rest of the week. So pick a day that really suits with you and get your plan in action. If you're not a morning person, starting the day, it can be actually quite hard to start the day with a really big customer. So start the day off with somebody that you already know and that it's easy and that may actually buy from you. Talk your sales pitch out before your meeting, not just in your head. So maybe if you're going to a really important meeting in the car traveling there, talk it out, going, hello, how are you? I'm Anne from All About Sales. I'm delighted to be in front of you, and so on. Start talking out, because there's a difference with talking it out in your head and actually talking it out verbally. Do your research on the customer before you meet. Just like the person on my website, they hadn't done the research. Do your research on it, and refrain from talking to any negative people before your meeting and even after it. So those people that are maybe not positive, in other words, that are always moaning and groaning, they're always complaining, stay away from those people when you've actually different big meetings on, but stay away from them afterwards, because that actually affects our mood as well. We really need to have a good positive mood and energetic when we're talking to people. Nobody wants to buy from somebody who's down like this and all. It's a really exciting product. You have to show that it's a really exciting product. So just to recap on what we've done today is start off with planning with your sales funnel. Put in them customers. If they're not in it, then you're not going to be able to know who it is you're looking for. Introduce yourself well and look the part. Do a fact find, ask those questions, make sure that the customer is doing more of the talking at that point. The product demonstration, when you're introducing the product to somebody, make sure that you're using the information that you found in the fact find for this. When you're making a recommendation, make the recommendation, zip it, lock it, put the key in your pocket, and then ask for the business, go for the closing. Don't be afraid to handle any objections that come your way, because everybody has them. And the after sales service is minding your customers. Mind your customers, because we all need them. So Sorcha, I'm coming to the end of my presentation, and we might just see, is there any chats?
Sure.
Presentation?
Let's see, and I think that was fantastic. I was taking some notes while you were going through there. The personality the personality traits. So I was a 1. I'm like, I open a box, I'm like, where are the instructions? I lay everything out and I put it all together, and it's great then. But it's really interesting that when you were saying when a 1 is trying to sell to a 3, and I never really looked at it like that. It's like, oh, yeah, I can see how that could have a negative response with a huge, big, long email. So, and then you had spoken about the sales funnel, which is really interesting, and the fact that a lot of people didn't have the sales funnel. So what's the best approach in creating the sales funnel? Just sit down and think about your business and what do you need, who are they, what do they look like, and then you said the seeing them, how they feel. Does anybody else have any questions for Anne?
Yeah, so I'm going to just go back to the first one there about you being a number one. So the ones and the threes are the different ends to it. So if you're dealing with somebody who's a one and you're a one, you're going to get on like a house on fire, CR, because you're going to be in the data. The one things with the ones is that they can be procrastinators because they don't make a decision, because they said, well, I'll make the decision when I get this information. They get that information and then they move it on and on. Where the threes are, I'll make it now, I'll do that. So they too can actually make it without any reflection and without taking time to actually think about things. So there's a balance. So if you have a big team or anything like that, that's where sometimes communication also can be a little bit weird for people. So then the next question then you had was about the sales funnel. I think you have to sit down and think, who is my ideal customer? So I'd say to you, if you opened up your local newspaper, any national newspaper, and your customers in it, what do they actually look like? What are the customers that are they business to business? Are they B2Cs? Are they somebody, start with males and females, their age profiles, what would they do? What would they be usually looking at? So you're building up a persona, CR, of what those customers are, and then see what problem do I fix for them? And if that's the problem I fix for them, why don't I just put it out there on social media? This is the problem and I can fix it.
I see you. Do you see Louise's comment there? Any tips when you're selling a brand new premium product at a high price point?
Wow. Well, I'd love to know the brand, but I think that depending if it's for B2B or B2C, I think you first of all have to tell the story around. If it's a high-end product, you have to have ads that are high-end. You must sell the image, because for that you're talking about brand awareness first of all. So like if you had an ad that was like just scrappy kind of a thing, that's not actually selling your product. They must, and depending on your brand code, it's B2C cosmetics. Thanks, Louise. So in that case, then you're looking at really good shots. You're looking maybe the before and afters. The brand, the packaging itself must be really good to sell that. Because if you look at any of the different brands, I don't know, I don't want to compare brands either, but if you have a cheap brand and you have a dear brand, what do you like about it? Maybe even if you go into Brown Thomas, Brown Thomas is a huge store with loads of different products in it. But if you go to Joe Malone, if you buy anything from Joe Malone, if you have a look at, they package it really well. It's in a lovely box, it's in a lovely bag, and it's a little thing put into it for the smell of it. They actually put perfume on your bag. So that's all the way that they actually sell that product. It's all a premier brand. So every ad must be that every time that they're in contact with you, you must have a perfect image. So it's all about that brand and living up to that brand as well. So hopefully that can help a little bit.
See, Grace, see, Claire has popped in one there. Any tips for starting a conversation selling a service to prospects? Service, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a service person, it depends if you're on the phone or on the landline. It's always much better, first of all, for sales to get in front of people. For the conversation, because emails and social media can only bring you so far, and so can a phone call. So we'll just say if you're in a conversation face to face and you're trying to sell a service, start with the fact find. Ask them what their problem is, Claire. Ask them, what are you using at the moment? How do you find it? What areas of concern do you have? Who is it? Any costs, any budgets, any problems? Get all of that information. And then when you're telling them about your service, instead of coming in, if somebody said, listen, I need a photocopier. Oh, I have a photocopier, I can sell it. Instead of doing that, go, really, what's actually wrong with your photocopier? What happened with it? What usage do you use? All of those kind of questions. And then with your product demonstration and your service demonstration, you're saying, you know, the way you were saying to me that you've a problem with X, Y, and Z, and the customer says, yes, well, my service does these X, Y's, and a Z. Isn't that what you're looking for? So always use the information that you have in the fact find into product demonstration, Claire. That's the biggest tip. Stop and listen to the customer in it.
That is great. And another question there in relation to the fact find. If you're calling somebody on the phone to try and sell your service, how do you go? Because not everybody is forthcoming on the phone, I suppose, these days. How do you go into a fact finding with somebody when you're trying to sell them your service on a phone call?
So I'd start off with maybe saying, listen, is it okay if I just check in with you? Are you happy with, let's see, if it's your, I don't know,
Virgin
ESP or whatever, like, Wi-Fi even, like, are you happy with your connection with it? And if they say yes, that's fantastic. And can I ask you, how much do you pay for it? And just start all those kind of questions. But if they say they're happy with their competitor, say, that's great. I'm delighted to hear that. Like, because nobody wants somebody to get on and give out about it. And then ask all those questions. And then at the end say, well, listen, I know you're happy with your supplier at the moment, but just to let you know, we have such a Wi-Fi connection and it's a little bit cheaper than what it is. Sure, listen, you might be interested in it, and start that conversation. So even on a phone, you need to go into a fact find. You need to start off with it. And I use the what's it, WHATSC, sorry. So what what are you using at the moment? How are you using it? What area of concern do you have? To whom is it you're looking for? What's special about your business? And what's the cost of it?
That sounds great. And any more questions from, I see Claire said thank you. Any more questions from anybody on the call? Nope. I think they're all quiet there, Anne. I think it was really informative. It's a great way of really stepping back and thinking about things. Like even yesterday, I was writing something down myself for what I need to do. And it was like, pare it back. What do we want to do? Why do we want to do it? Who will buy it? Why will they buy it? How will they use it? That kind of thing. So it's answering all of the questions yourself before you even start to do anything.
Yeah. And just coming back on Louise's question, which was about the cosmetic, that, you know, whoever's selling them product needs to be up to date with all the information as well, the product knowledge and that, because we sell in two different ways. We sell with knowledge or we sell with our personalities. So we can have two different people. And a really good friend of mine sells with product knowledge. She would know every single thing there is to know about it. I wouldn't know everything. But that's the way she will sell. But people will buy from me because they'll trust me, because I won't sell them anything that they don't actually need. And I'll actually say, you don't actually need that. So I'll be really honest about it. So always sell with your own personality as well. And if you're going to sell, look for salespeople, try and get people in the threes, the 2s and 3s. Stay away from the 1s if you're going to try and sell B2B and B2C especially, unless they're technical. Technical people need to be a 1, so they do. Oh, sorry. Because the information it can be an overload. So just be mindful of that, because most 1s are the back end of things and most 3s are out front selling, and so are the 2s.
Okay. It does make sense. That does make sense. I'll just send everyone an email and ask them, are they a 2 or 3 before I call? Does anybody else have any more questions? I know we're nearly at 5 to 11, so we're running out of time. But I have.
Can I just say one other thing, Circa? Like even with Trained In, which is a fantastic platform, like go on to it and have a look. Anybody who's a trainer even here and see and come back with some feedback to Circa as well. Like, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, when you look at Trained In, like what problems does that solve? That solves where the trainer itself wants to get national profile and wants to get their courses in front of loads of people. And for the consumer then, it also solves their problem as well for them, that they're looking for trainers that don't know where to find them.
Yeah, or consultancy services. So I
Yeah.
suppose it's very varied. Thanks for that plug, Anne. No, that's great. I think it's really informative, and it was a great session. So if I've also put up, if anybody's looking for extra training for themselves or for their team, if you pop me an email at circa@trainedin.ie or email Breda in Taste for Success. So it's info@tasteforsuccess.ie, and we can assist you with any further training with Anne on these topics, because she is a wealth of information and could talk all day, really, I imagine, Anya.
Yes.
Great. Well, look, I think we've got all of the thanks and the praises coming in there now in the chat, I see. So, Anne, I always say thank you so much for your time today. It was absolutely lovely to have you on here again, as usual, and great to have such great representation from all around the country. And thanks to everybody for all of your support and for being here today. You will receive a recording of this webinar, which should be with you in the next 2 hours. If you don't get it, just pop me an email and I'll send you a link to the replay, and feel free to share it with anyone in your team who you feel might benefit. And hopefully we'll see you all again here on another workshop coming up in the next couple of weeks. If anyone's interested, please send me an email and I'll pop you out the timetable, or you'll find them all on LinkedIn as well. We'll talk to you soon, and Anne, thanks very much again, and bye for now. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye. Take care. And don't forget to sell. Ask for the sale.